Oh hey there gamerinos and gamerinas, welcome to UnicornStorm, this is Rady, and today I'm taking a look at another unique and highly creative indie game. I mean, that's what indie games do best, the good ones that is. And this here is certainly among the good ones, wonky and janky as it is. Metroid is a platforming dungeon crawler in some kind of labyrinthian interconnected megastructure, very much like a Metroid-like. You not only have to navigate through countless winding hallways, solve puzzles and get past enemies guarding the place, you also have to collect a bunch of items and abilities along the way, tools that open certain ways or help you past specific obstacles. And sometimes have you use them in creative ways to progress. Oh yeah, this game encourages and often requires some out-of-the-box thinking. First and foremost because of the main mechanic, which is the gravity manipulation. From the start you are able to stick to pretty much any surface and shift your personal pull of gravity around. Not only does this give the exploration a whole nother dimension, it also makes it hard to find your way around the game world. It's kinda like Descent or Forsaken in that way. You get used to it. Soon you rethink your whole approach to navigation. What's the fastest way to reach your destination? Take a shortcut across the wall, or reposition and use the shifting gravity to quickly drop down towards your goal. And you unlock special abilities to play around or experiment with this mechanic even more. You can walk on the walls or the ceiling as much as you like. There's no time limit, no resource to spend. You don't have to find anchor points for it. You can just dash or walk or jump against any surface and stick to it immediately. When it works. Which is most of the time the case. Only sometimes the game tends to misbehave. At the worst moments, naturally. There are just a few exceptions. Grades don't cooperate with your abilities for some reason. And hazards like spikes, fire, quicksands and the like don't really care for how and from which direction you're touching them, they just hurt. And then there's also the void. In a lot of places. And it's always closer than you think. This can sometimes get you when you want to explore, and it sucks that it hurts you. I get the actual hazards, but the void should at most be a position reset, as to not discourage exploration on low health. By making progress through exploration and of course killing the area bosses, and by finding broken things and having them repaired, you gain additional abilities, slowly increasing your arsenal, which you need to tackle even more challenges. Standard fare for Metroid-likes. But with the gravity mechanic it opens up so many possibilities for movement and traversal. And the game doesn't explain shit. Have fun finding out half of it yourself, which is sometimes fun, sometimes leads to somewhat of an aha moment when something worked that you didn't expect to work, and it sometimes is a bit annoying. Though, generally, I quite like the approach, for the most part. I just feel this approach sometimes clashes with how many of the puzzles are designed. Half of the puzzles are Zelda-style block pushing and lever pulling and button pressing puzzles, and the other half is weird physics stuff. In both kinds you often need to use your many different abilities. And as is tradition for Metroid-likes, you can't sometimes be sure whether you lack a specific item to solve a puzzle or are just too stupid. And especially with the physics puzzles, which already are a bit finicky and do not always work as expected because of, well, game physics, it's even harder to know whether or not you have the right tools on hand. At one of the earlier roadblocks the game tells you that you lack the required ability, but I have not seen another message like this at later points. That said, most of the puzzles that had me stumped and had me take a break and do something else for a bit, well, I was just too stupid to solve them. At first. I got through them. Most of them. There might be some where I actually need to find another ability first. You never know. But yeah, the puzzles come with a lot of variety, and even those of a similar style come in lots of different flavors. The same is true for the environments. So the game goes for this low-res voxel look, but it doesn't cheap out on the visual variety and detail. It has in fact a very striking art design, with a rich use of colors and high contrasts. Despite the simple shapes, every area looks different from the others, and there's always something going on. Particles flying around, or little critters and the like scuttling about. And the level design goes all out on this dreamlike, surreal style with impossible structures winding around and into each other with no regard for static or, well, gravity, which makes them visually even more impressive. When you're not desperately trying to find your way around or struggle at one of the many puzzles, you get to throw down with the many enemies guarding these halls. I mean, of course there's also combat in this, but it comes with a twist. You see, Metro Gravity is not only a Metroid-like with full gravity control, it is also a rhythm game, so a rhythm Metroid-like with full gravity control. You have a simple attack and a dodge and a parry, and enemies tell you how you need to react to their attacks, while you bash them repeatedly. Whenever an enemy attacks, a ring will close either around them or you, signaling when the attack will hit. This is always in tune to the background music. So is your attack as well. And all the sounds you make, be it swinging your weapon around or readying an item, or just walking up some stairs. In fact, while you can just mash the attack button, attacking on beat seems to power up your attack, turning your swords into hammers. Whenever you are required to dodge or jump, an icon will appear next to the enemy, telling you what to do, though you can also grasp that from the animation. Enemies very clearly telegraph their attacks, so you don't have to wait for the icon to appear and can just ready yourself when you see the wind up. Not all icons are explained though, or the colored attack timings. You have to figure that out for yourself. And all in all, the combat is a bit janky. There's no weight to anything, everything's floaty. Since enemies move randomly around during combat and each of your attacks has you take a step forward, you end up walking against walls and over edges, flipping the gravity around, though you can lock your gravitational pull with the push of a button. But still, the camera constantly shifts and pans around, not even the lock-on can keep up with that, so you lose track of the enemy, which means you don't see their attack timings, get hit and flung around, which makes the camera go really apeshit. There's this one enemy type that can reverse the pull of gravity, but with the lock-on and how the camera works, this immediately disorients you and you can't see the ground below you, but in these fights there's always a bottomless pit below you with small platforms, so have fun trying to safely land while you can't see shit and the enemy just cheerfully carries on attacking you. Maybe even flipping the room a few more times. Or moments where multiple enemies attack you from different directions, so you can't keep track of all of them. You can't always account for the enemy's positions, so these fights can become quite annoying. On paper, this system is fun. And in one-on-one fights or in areas where you can keep track of multiple enemies at once, it works well enough. It never becomes amazing. It stays always a bit wonky. But it works fine enough. But yeah, wonky could be the description of pretty much the whole game. This isn't a polished experience. Animations sometimes don't work, graphics glitch out, the gravity flip doesn't cooperate and the camera does whatever it wants. But it never breaks completely. This is just the price for a very unique experience. I mean, I would like more polish, but I'd rather have outrageously creative mechanics and challenges with some jank than a perfectly functioning but bog standard game. I mean, the only positive thing you hear about Veilguard is that it released without any major issues or bugs at launch. But let's come back to the outrageously creative. So this is a game with very unique traversal and rhythm-based combat, with a few Souls-inspired mechanics in the form of checkpoints that replenish both your health and your healing items, but also revive all the enemies, I guess. I'm not sure if this is actually the case for all enemies. Maybe the respawn just glitched out for me a few times, who knows. So how do you think the boss fights work? They are dance battles. During normal encounters you need to alternate attacking and defending, but during boss battles you just need to survive the song. I say just, but it's not that easy. Bosses attack relentlessly and there's little room for mistakes. It's a neat idea and the battles are certainly fun, for a while. But the execution is a bit lacking. It's less a rhythm fight than it is Simon Says. Well, I mean, one of my favorite games is Space Channel 5, which is a rhythm-based Simon Says, but there you always only need to remember the current sequence. In this game you need to remember the whole fight. The attacks in these battles are not always obvious and you don't get enough warning or long enough time to anticipate the next attack. After you've gotten hit a few times, you can see the tells. Like the dog bending his arms back for a wind-up before he does his 3-hit combo. But you still don't know how often he does it. You have to already know the song, which you don't before the battle. This leads to a lot of cheap hits. Now you can take a bit of punishment, but often one missed parry leads to the next. So with a bit of bad luck, missing a parry at the wrong time can lead to you quickly getting pummeled to death. Now the game could have played the song throughout the level so that you can better anticipate the boss's attacks. Or you remember any given section of a song so you know how often they will do their little flingy flunks. Sometimes the rhythm gameplay gets shaken up with something completely different. The last phase of the first boss took me quite a few attempts because suddenly it's not a rhythm game anymore. Now death zones just appear everywhere and you have to platform, glide, keep in the air. Not saying something like this can't work or isn't allowed to happen, but please not without warning after a boss fight that already allows only a few mistakes depending on which command you screw up and has enough trial and error as it is. And during this section, one of my pet peeves showed itself. You see, I don't like dodging or general reflex controls on keyboard and mouse. I don't really get the feel for dashing out of the way continuously with the shift key. The pinky just isn't made for this. Yeah, I can rebind, but all the other keys seem to make sense, and I kinda need my other fingers for the directional inputs. And the mouse already has the other reflex action with the parry, and also attacking. So to me, this is a controller game. Shame that at times you have to quickly and precisely aim both for puzzles as well as for avoiding incoming damage, for which mouse and keyboard is way better suited. I had a similar problem with Eternal Strands earlier this year. Because of this, I can never fully enjoy such games, because I get only barely into the flow of the action. That said, only the first boss gave me such a hard time so far. I have fought 2 other bosses which had the same problems with the attacks out of nowhere, but I didn't feel that the gameplay change threw me off that much. But yeah, be aware of that. I think Crypt of the Necrodancer, or its Zelda spin-off, had a better approach to rhythm boss fights, but after a few fights, after you more or less know the song, it is actually quite enjoyable, even though it's more of a memory game at that point. Since this is a rhythm game, the music is of course an important aspect of this game. The background music is generally really nice, pretty good actually, but I wouldn't call it memorable. It kinda sinks into the back of your mind, which actually isn't all that bad, since you spent quite a while in each area, trying to find your way around in 6 degrees of freedom, solving puzzles, so the natural repetitiveness of the music doesn't become grating or annoying. The music is still interesting. I'd say they struck a good balance. It's jazzy and loungy, it's good stuff. And during the boss fights, the music goes all out, of course. So yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with this game, more than I expected. I mean, I expected to enjoy the game, or I wouldn't have bought it. But I didn't expect it to pull me in so hard. Like, look past the jank and you get an amazing indie gem. There is some entertaining mystery going on with the story, but the game focuses not too much on it. Dialogues are short, there's barely any cutscenes, and the story mostly progresses right before and after a boss fight. Overall, the writing is okay, the characters aren't much to speak of, but they're also not annoying. And there are some cool or intriguing moments. I guess people will craft all kinds of theories about what's going on, it's that kind of narrative. But I'm here for the unique gameplay and all the creative designs. So yeah, if you can endure some jank and enjoy endlessly searching around labyrinths for goodies, experimenting with fun and unique mechanics, give this game a try. It's not that expensive and there's also a demo available, so you can safely check it out. But no matter what you do, I wish you the greatest of days. This has been Rady, and I hope to see you again on the next game.